Hey guys. All right, come on in here. Come on in here. So if you were able to catch me earlier this morning, you may have seen me. I was on the Don Lemon show, had a great time over there. We were talking the Epstein files, and I will be back over there later this afternoon. I believe it's going to be for his 2 p.m. show. Thanks for joining me again today. Let me put those comments up on the screen. Remember, if you are seriously injured anywhere in the United States, give me a call. You can get a free consultation with me. Just call 855-4-SIMONE. I spell Simone with a Y. That's 855-4-SIMONE, excuse me. And I would be happy to help you there. In addition, if you would like a consultation on any other civil legal matter, if you've been turned down from other attorneys, give us a call. Now, if it is related to an injury case, I do free consultations, okay? And you can go to SimoneRedwine.com. This is the website, SimoneRedwine.com. And you just click book a consultation, and you can immediately, let's see, where is it? I can't see this website, and you can immediately just go straight there, book your consult, and get situated. I would love to help. Or if it's not related to an injury case, if it's civil, if it's small business, you can absolutely schedule there too. Just go up top here, just go to book consultation with Simone. Yay! No Joy is here, said she finally got the alert. Good girl, I'm glad. Make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe, and make sure your notifications are turned on. So I think I found my kind of sweet spot, which is going to be 11 a.m. Central Time, Monday through Thursday. I'm going to be coming on every day, 11 a.m. Central, Monday through Thursday, live, talking about different viral legal topics, whatever's on my heart, etc. Telling a little bit about business. Y'all know I do that. If you're new here, because maybe you found me just for YouTube or through Don Lemon, I am known as the legal bestie. The way I got that nickname is because people who knew me online, etc., would say, "Oh my gosh, you're like my best friend in my head." As well, I like to break down legal cases like I'm talking to my friends drunk at brunch, where I'm sober, they're drunk. Because I always say, if you can break down a legal case so that even drunk people understand, then you're doing a good job. So that's what we do here. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. So we've got a few things on the docket. That's what I call it today. Because I did just hop over from Don Lemon. I have not put up, like, the thumbnail doesn't have the pictures on it just yet. If you're rewatching this, you'll see that. But today on the docket, we're going to be talking this breakthrough in the Epstein files. I'm going to be revisiting a topic I talked about a little bit yesterday, which is Corey Holcom punching that lady and whether or not criminal charges can be brought against him. That happened in December of 2024. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this woman. Unfortunately, it's gone viral. Her SSI checks have been cut off because they said she couldn't prove her citizenship. This is a Black woman, never left the country, don't own a passport, ain't even left Dallas County. We're going to talk about that, as well as there's a courtroom beatdown, y'all, that I'm going to show you footage of, and I want to get your thoughts and opinions on it. We're going to talk Nick Cannon. We're going to talk Cam Newton. And we're going to talk Master P. Master P's been up here lying. And last but not least, we're also going to conclude with talking about an update in the case of Coach Moore from Michigan. He was the guy who started messing with his assistant and had some like $40+ million contract to be the coach for Michigan and screwed it all up over some coochie. Okay. Thank you guys for joining. All right. First up, I'm going to play for you. I'm going to play you a short little clip that's going to set up what is going on with these Epstein files and the breakthrough that bombshell that NPR it has revealed. Now, NPR stands for National Public Radio. And you will see after we get into this why it is that Trump has moved to defund NPR. He's taken over $9 billion with the B dollars of their funding away. So what they are going to be breaking down here is effectively, so under the law, Congress passed an act that forced the release of the Epstein files. Well, we all know that, well, I say we, most of us know that they have not released everything. They've released the things that don't implicate President Trump. Well, NPR has done a deep dive and they have found proof that there are documents that implicate Trump for messing with a minor, for SAing a minor, and that these documents have now been hidden from the public. So I'm going to play this clip for you guys. We'll start here, and this is from MSNBC, and then we're going to break it down real quickly. Let me know if you can hear. And let me know if you can hear it. Okay, I just heard you say you couldn't hear it. All right, so I'm going to remove. All right, I'm going to remove it and then re-add it. Give me a second. It did this yesterday too. Hold on, give me one quick second. I'm going to hit refresh. So if it seems to go out and come back in, that is why. Hold on, we're going to try this again. Give me one. All right.
DA assistant
How
DA,
about now?
that is Catherine Christian. And Lisa, you got this reporting. Walk us through it.
Well, Anna, one of the things I can tell you is that
So now,
based on documents that are available in the Epstein files, and we're just going to hold up to you what allowed us to get to this reporting. This is an index of witness statements from people who were not expected to testify at Ghislaine Maxwell's trial, but whose statements were nonetheless produced to her defense counsel in the run-up to her 2021 trial. We also have a smaller one with respect to those who were expected to testify. And based on those indices, as well as documents available in the file, MS Now can report that there is at least one witness for whom 3 interviews with the FBI in rapid succession in 2019 are missing. You might say, well, what's the big deal about that? Well, the big deal about that is that we can also confirm that that woman is the same person who in a 2025 FBI presentation is identified to have accused Donald Trump of a sexual assault when she was between 13 and 15 years old. We know that.
Let me explain what they're saying. What they're saying is last year there was a presentation after all of the files were combined and organized. A member of the FBI did a presentation to other people that work for DOJ or the federal government and said, hey, among all of the things that have been collected, this is a particular victim, alleged victim, who states that as a minor, she was essayed by Trump and Epstein. What this means is that there were people to which it was presented that, hey, these are documents that implicate Trump. What we want to know is, where are those people? Are those some of the people that resigned from the DOJ because they were being asked to do things that they believed were going to implicate their law license, that were against the legal ethics, and that they in turn could lose their license to practice law, were these people who felt that they were being asked to what's called obstruct justice. Obstruct justice would be not releasing documents that the Epstein Act, yes, there was an act passed by Congress that forced the release of these. Remember, so last year, to give you the context, last year, remember when the government was getting shut down in part as a result of it related to gerrymandering, but it related to healthcare. And so there were a number of Democrats who said they were going to come, we're not coming back for the vote because of the healthcare vote. Well, at that same time, the Speaker of the House was not allowing a particular Arizona Congresswoman to be sworn in because she would have created enough votes to force a vote on this Epstein Act. Ultimately, that woman was sworn in. She voted in favor of this Epstein Act, which simply said, release the goddamn files, okay? Release it. Release it. And so as a result, now this law says you have to release all of the files. Yes, they can redact certain things, but you cannot wholesale just say, I'm not going to release documents that implicate the president. That's literally the opposite of the point of the law. So what they are saying here is that the NPR investigation, what it does is when you have to release documents in discovery, every single page is numbered and they're numbered consecutively. Why? Because if you're looking at documents and you see that there's a sequence of numbers missing, that's how you know something's been omitted. It's called Bates numbers. Without Bates numbers, it would be super easy to hide evidence as the administration is doing here by simply not releasing a document. But by putting consecutive page numbers, that's how NPR was able to determine we are missing approximately 50 plus pages from FBI interview notes where FBI investigators took notes when interviewing this person who was a minor. Now, this allegedly happened in 1993, while this minor was essayed by both Trump and Epstein, according to the now adult victims interview that she did back in the day. She also met with investigators in 2019 and I believe last year as well. Well, part of what also basically shows that the administration knows they've been implicated and are in big trouble is the fact that she had 4 separate interviews. In those 4, the only one that was actually released is the one that only implicates Epstein and says nothing about Trump. So here's what we know. Here's what we know, and here's what potentially we can do about it. That means we know that, in fact, the government is withholding documents that implicate Trump that involve minors. Remember, JD Vance said, you guys need to leave pedos alone. What, boy, what? You must be one. And they also stated things like the Trump and the speaker said things like, there's no evidence of Trump messing with any minors or anyone messing with minors. Well, yeah, because you hit it. This also means that if a presentation was done that said, hey, this is basically a summary of the juicy documents of the Epstein files. That was done and it was presented to other people. We want to find out who the hell was at that presentation, who was then told that this woman, accused Trump of assaulting her when she was a minor. Because if they're not going to release the documents, at least it would be great to hear from people who are aware of what the documents say. So earlier this morning when I talked on Don Lemon, part of it was, what can even be done? We know our government is corrupt, and we know that this is no longer the Department of Justice for the American people. This is Trump's personal attorney, Pam Bondi, doing whatever Trump tells her to do. Okay. Which also makes me think he and or Russia probably got some good juicy dirt on Pam Bondi for her to keep doing these things, which are implicating her law license. Don't let me forget, y'all, in the chat, we're going to talk about Pam and her law license and what could potentially be done if you feel, as I do, that she has been breaking the law. Now, so another thing that can be done is many of these victims actually do want their opportunity to speak. And what they've been upset about is that Pam Bondi has never sat down and talked with them. This current administration has not talked with them or given them a platform to do so. Now, of course, all of them don't want to. Many of the victims are fearful. But part of me as an attorney actually feels that to the extent a victim wants to, if they are able to, for example, attend a congressional hearing and get their face out there, that actually might help protect them. Because if something were to happen to them after they tell their truth publicly, it is more likely that it would get associated with the administration. That's just one theory. However, the government absolutely positively should not force any victims to talk about anything they're not ready to talk about. But one thought that I had was, if that victim wants to speak, call your senators and say, hey, if the victim wants to speak, let's have a hearing where that victim gets to tell us about just repeat what she told those federal investigators regarding her experience with Trump specifically, that is now missing. Oh, and if that victim says, I don't want to do it, if she grants her lawyer permission to recant those facts, the lawyer absolutely could. And that could allow her to maintain her anonymity if she likes. Let me know your thoughts in the chat. If you were a victim, would you even want to? Number one, if you were this victim, where we now know had 4 different interviews with federal officers, where she was telling her story about specifically what Trump did to her as a minor along with Epstein. Would you want to hear from her? And if so, are you open to calling your senator or a congressperson so that we can help get that done? All right. So next up, I want to talk about Miss Pam Bondi. Now, I know a lot of people right now are feeling they feel like, there's not really anything we can do. Our government is doing whatever they want, and there seems to be no repercussions. I want to be very clear. Number one, if there are any state offenses that are violated, those charges can always be brought by a state attorney general. As of now, the foolishness related to Epstein and those files seems to primarily have occurred in Florida, actually, while Pam Bondi was the attorney general. As a result, nothing is going to happen unless there is an administration change. I firmly believe, until Trump leaves office, the statute of limitations for most of this is 5 years, meaning if the next president is not a Republican, there's a chance that the administration may bring charges at that point. Miss Alberta said this explains why Dan Bongino resigned from the FBI and why Kash Patel doesn't care about drinking with the U.S. hockey team and being seen on camera doing it. That is right. These resignations from the FBI, those are also the head people, are many of the ones who likely know where all this dirt is kept. They know the information that is being withheld. And that is likely why they did it, because they don't later want to go to jail. Remember, Rudy Giuliani running behind the president doing his dirty work the way that Pam Bondi does, he lost his entire law license. He cannot practice in Washington, D.C. or New York State. And of course, he lost a civil suit for millions against these 2 women that he claimed were committing voter fraud. And those women actually were able to go to court, force Giuliani's bankruptcy, etc. Now, going back to Miss Pam Bondi, I want you guys to know she's an attorney. As an attorney, it don't matter if Jesus Christ himself told you to do something and that something is against the legal and ethical guidelines and rules that we swear to as lawyers. Did you know that anybody can file a bar complaint? Anyone. They don't have to be represented by that person. That means any any person, not even just in the US, but any person can file a bar complaint against Pam Bondi. Now, she is licensed by the state of Florida. And it has to be a violation of one of the professional ethics rules. And those violations, I bet if you went to ChatGPT right now, you could say, what are some of the professional ethical rules that Pam Bondi has violated? Allegedly violate. Actually, I'm gonna do it right now. I got it open. Hold on. What are some of the professional legal ethics rules that Pam Bondi has likely violated. I'm going to say under Florida bar rules, because that's where we know she's barred. Let's see. A lot of times ChatGPT does not like recounting stuff that deals with the law. Here we go. Oh, here we go. Oh, it says here are the Florida bar rules of professional contact that professional conduct that legal analysts, y'all, are saying are potentially relevant based on reporting about her handling or disclosure of the Epstein files and related transparency issues. Number 1, Rule 4-3.8, special responsibilities of a prosecutor. It says, hold on one second. Let's see if I can share this. Woo, y'all come look at this, y'all. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, guys. I want to make sure you can see it. All right. It says, thank you, Russian. It says, I'm new on this channel, but I'm already in love with this lady here. Thank you so much. It says, number 1, misconduct. This is a broad catch-all. A lawyer violates this rule if they quote, let's start here. Rule 1, special responsibilities of a prosecutor. If a lawyer is acting in a prosecutorial or government capacity, this is the biggest one. The rule requires prosecutors to seek justice, not just convictions. That sounds like that could implicate the case where they are suing both Don Lemon and Georgia Fort as journalists for covering the ICE protests in Minnesota. Secondly, they're supposed to timely disclose exculpatory or material evidence. Hello, that's related to the Epstein files. Timely disclose. Exculpatory means something that could show someone is innocent. Exculpatory, I think, is innocent. Inculpatory means you did it. You have to, or you have to release that as well. So that actually could be some of what we're talking about regarding the Epstein files. They have to avoid suppressing evidence favorable to the accused or material to investigations. And why it matters? If any government lawyer knowingly withheld material investigative files, witness statements, or evidence that that legally should have been disclosed under the law or court order, that could raise questions under Rule 4-3.8. Again, Pam Bondi, is barred under this Florida law. So these are potential violations. All you have to do, if someone was just bored one day and you had time, I'm saying they could literally just go to the Florida Bar website, pull down it's called a grievance, and file a grievance listing these things. Number 2, misconduct. This is a broad catch-all. A lawyer violates it if they engage in conduct involving dishonesty, fraud, deceit, or misrepresentation. If they engage in conduct prejudicial to the administration of justice, or assist another in violating ethics rules, or if they abuse a position of public trust. Why it matters? If a lawyer in public office knowingly misled the public, Congress, or investigators about the existence of documents or participated in concealing them, that could fall under dishonesty and misrepresentation, conduct prejudicial to justice, or abuse of public office. Rule 3. Hold on. How many of these? Okay, we got 2 more. Rule 3, Rule 4-1.2D, assisting in fraud or crime. Lawyers cannot counsel or assist conduct that they know is criminal or fraudulent. I don't know, abusing minors? Rule 4.3.4, fairness to opposing party and evidence. A lawyer cannot unlawfully obstruct access to evidence. They can't conceal documents with potential evidentiary value or counsel others to do so. They also cannot, Rule 4-8.4, engage in conduct prejudicial to the administration of justice. So even if no criminal conduct occurred, a lawyer can face discipline for actions that undermine public confidence in the legal system, interfere with transparency that's required by the law, damage the integrity of the judicial or investigative process. So here it says, for any Florida bar ethics violations to be found, a formal complaint must be filed. Any of y'all can file it. You don't even have to be a Florida resident. The bar then investigates it, and then there has to be clear and convincing evidence And she would ultimately get a hearing. And you don't necessarily, if you were to file that against her, you don't necessarily have to attend the hearing. Literally, when the bar takes over, the bar pursues the complaint. Think of it kind of like with DV cases, right? If someone abuses a woman, sometimes that woman says, oh, I don't want to pursue anything. But when there's a violation found, the state can take up the charges. It's similar with the bar. It says, can any of these victims file suits against Trump? They can, as long as the relative statute of limitations has not expired. And I simply don't know, because unaliving someone is the one crime that throughout all states has no statute of limitations. However, the statute of limitations varies when you're dealing with abuse of minors. It varies state to state. And I don't know what it is that would be relevant for Florida, because it also goes by what was the statute of limitations in place back when the crime occurred. So this victim is saying it happened to her in 1993. I just haven't had a chance to see what was the SOL for Florida back in 1993. I'm assuming it happened in the Florida area. Sister Craft also said misconduct 4.8, avoiding conduct prejudicial. Yep. Candor, honesty, and truthfulness. These are also, someone said this is so much worse than Watergate, Sister Craft says. And these are also things that implicate how Pam Bondi handled the James Comey case, as well as Letitia James. So we're going to move from this, but I wanted to give you guys that wrap up. I'm going to be going back on Don Lemon's show this afternoon to talk further about that. And then, so the answer is, can victims file lawsuits on Trump? Number one, they could file civil suits, but they're going to need this evidence. So for example, I'll say this, they can file civil suits again, as long as the statute of limitations has not expired. However, if it can be found that he intentionally withheld evidence from these victims so that the statute of limitations would pass, then there can be laws and ways around that where these victims could still bring civil cases pertaining to this. I'm surprised no one has not already filed a grievance. Can you tell if it's been filed by anyone already? No, you can't tell yet. Hey, Veronica. And some people may have. But if y'all are bored just sitting on the toilet one day, why don't you go on over to that page, pull down the grievance. I'll do a separate video where I talk about how to file a grievance, and you can go that route. All right, next up, we are going to, stop sharing. We're going to switch over to, we're going to make it a little more lighthearted. We're going to share this one. Oh, good old baby making factory. Here we are. Hold on. Here we go. Good old baby maker, Nick Cannon. Here we go. Now, let me know if you can't hear the audio here. I'm going to play this for you. Lord have mercy.
Emotionally available to Sister Mariah.
Yes.
I believe you still, that you want her back. You do.
I wouldn't say that.
Yes, I'm saying it. And I believe that's where you want to be.
Okay, so
you're still there. That's why nobody else can get a piece of your heart, because it belongs to Mariah.
We're in a safe space, right? We're being vulnerable.
Absolutely.
Right? Ultimately, what I'll say, I divorced my wife.
You initiated.
Yes.
Why?
The man that I am, and the man that I was before I was married, I feel like I lost my identity and who I was once I became
a husband.
A husband.
And
the husband I became was Mr. Mariah Carey.
So are you telling me that you let the public's opinion influence how you function in your marriage?
It wasn't the public's opinion, but that was part of it, because it wasn't, I could care less about what people thought.
But because of who she is, you knew going in.
Because I didn't feel like a man.
Because of what?
So many things. Initially.
Give me two things.
Financially.
Were you emotionally available to Sister Mariah?
Here we go.
Yes.
I believe you still, that you want her back.
100% financially. Y'all, so this is what we talk about when we talk about how it's not so simple as just going to dating a bus driver, like Ayanna Van Zandt was encouraging Ebony K. Williams, love her, by the way, to do. Go date a bus driver. Because the bus drivers sometimes end up feeling like Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon literally said he divorced Mariah because he didn't feel like a man being with her. That makes me think about how they often say, and you know, these Sprinkle and others said, make a man feel like you need him. And here's the thing, us powerful women, us movers and shakers, us women who have jobs and things like that, we absolutely need men. We need them for their emotional stability, assuming they are emotionally stable. We need them for love, for nurturing, for things like that. It's not simply financial. And hearing Nick say this was really interesting because I felt like it totally explains why he dates idiots. It explains why he dates idiots. He needs people to feel needed. What I found is this. I dated a guy once, gorgeous, great looking. And what I came to realize is his confidence was based on being the most successful guy that a woman has ever dated. He felt like as long as he was the most successful, she wouldn't leave him. She wouldn't cheat. She would be less likely to do any of that because he was her best. That's how he defined best. Meanwhile, he is emotionally unstable. He's a ghoster. He would just not come home. Like it would be stressful and he'd be dealing with issues and stuff in his prior relationship. He didn't pull that ish with me and he would just ghost. So what I'm saying is y'all beware of these men who talk about who associate their value solely to money. Those are the men that become banks. That's what he is for these women. He's financial security so long as he's got his multimedia, empire going. But I bet you can't call him when your mom died and you need someone to just sit and hold you. I bet you can't call him to help you, create a business strategy or even sit through, like if you've got a presentation to give on your job and maybe you're nervous about it and you want to practice. I bet you can't call him for anything like that. First of all, because he's got a basketball team full of baby mamas and kids. Thank you, Marcus. Marcus is letting the world know he would never treat me like that. Thank you. Marcus, can you give me some money? Because I am sick of this country and I'm about to take my black ass to Africa. So can you give me some money so I can use it on my trip? Okay, thank you. Cash App, MISS Red Wine. It should be down below. Anyway, but Nick said this, and then we've got his counterpart, Cam Newton, hold on, who said something equally stupid that I want to put on the screen for y'all. And I'm going to be going live this week, Monday through Thursday at 11. So now you can catch me Monday through Thursday at 11 here on Girl Is That Legal. Here we go. We're going to be talking about legal stuff, viral legal stuff, and just things that I'm interested in as a lady. All right. So let me make sure you can see this clip. Now, Cam Newton has got something equally stupid that he wanted to share. Here we go.
Women's value get lower the more children that they have. And I was having this conversation, with one of the mother of my children, and she's still fine. But like I was telling her, I was like, yo,
Probably Jazzy.
The guy that you're dating or will date, if he ain't willing to love on these 5 children that you have, that ain't the guy for you. Because when I came into your life, I was willing to accept you and whatever you had. And there's guys that's out there that's just going to say, them ain't my kids. I want you. Well, that ain't how it worked. But that's not to say that she can't find nobody.
Right.
I'm pretty sure she has somebody.
Right. But do you feel like it's as the best that she could possibly do if she didn't have children?
Well, you're talking to a dude that was once in her life. I don't feel like she's going to get better than me. That's just my confidence.
I don't even think it's confidence. I have said, and I might get eaten alive, I don't think most women do better than the father of their children.
The reality of
you better hope you do. Lord, I would hope that all of my friends do better than most of their baby daddies, except for the ones that were like married. But if this ain't a lesson for all of his baby moms and future baby moms, because I feel like there will be more. That Jazzy won't be the last, unfortunately. She gonna try. She gonna try to be the last woman standing. She will try. And that is sad enough to see. I've met girls before where their literal strategy for a wedding ring is to be the last woman standing. Me and this other girl were dating the same guy. I was like, no, you can have him. He's all types of idiot. But she told me that her strategy was to be the last woman standing and that she was going to tolerate everything, and that eventually he'd have to select a wife. This is what she told me. I said, girl, I pray for you. And while it sounded ridiculous, whenever I hear crazy stuff like that, I actually like to learn more about that person's story, because usually if you take the time to know where they've come from, you can see why they feel that way. And for her, this particular woman never knew her dad, was raised by her mom. Her mom was actually like a 1990s, 80s video vixen, and her whole life was financially unstable. And she saw this man as financial stability. And effectively for her, it was no different like how you tolerate a man who knock you across your head in exchange for a stable household. She was like, it's just emotional abuse. And if I stick around long enough, I think he's going to marry me. That's what she said. I feel like that's what these Cam Newton girls are. That's their logic there too. And you can do that. You can stick around, but is it worth it? You're wasting your best years on this form of an idiot. But not only that, like, I do believe, I want to know your thoughts. Do you feel like a woman's value lowers with the more children that she has? Now, I definitely felt that way about women, like when we were teenagers and in our 20s. I do believe that that is absolutely true. And that, because most men don't have children. So they know getting with a woman who has a child in her teens, in her 20s is, a lot more responsibility. However, as we get older, as you're in your late 30s and your 40s, what's interesting is, and let me know, ladies in the chat, gentlemen in the chat, let me know too. It's almost like there's like this sweet spot where men don't want to have no more kids. So some men are actually looking for women who either already have children or don't want any, especially when you get around 40, because maybe those are men who had them in their teens. Their kids are now going off to college. They don't want to start all over. So I don't necessarily think it lowers with the more children. I think it varies by age. And ladies, it varies by whether or not you were divorced or you just had some baby daddies. The reason why that matters too is with divorce, there's closure. Most women are not still sleeping with their ex-husband. Usually it takes so much for you to get divorced that you hate him. You're not trying to reward him with that cooter cat. However, it's a different structure when it's baby daddy, because sometimes you just want to marry at least one of your children's fathers for the legitimacy of it, to bring your household all together, etc. But either way, I think Cam Newton, he got that CTE going on in his scalp. He's just getting dumber and dumber. But you also got to watch out for the Cam Newtons. And if you have daughters and stuff like that, you got to warn them about these men, because let's not forget, this is the same man who sat up there and said that he believes that you got to put a woman through a bunch of stuff in order to see if they really love you. That you got to he said, oh, I'm so sorry. I'll have to find the clip. But he literally had said that you put them through a bunch of stuff, and then if they stay, that's how you know who loves you. Are you crazy? That is called emotional abuse. See, there's a difference between unconditional love and unconditional tolerance. He's seeking unconditional tolerance. That's not the same. Unconditional love says, I'm going to love you even if you're not perfect. I will love you if you're not rich. I will love you even if you get laid off. That's the love that I have for my partners that I've had in my life. Unconditional tolerance. I had a guy tell me once, oh, so your love is an unconditional. I said, you can't bust me in my head. Hell no. If you bust me in my head, I'm gone. But that's unconditional tolerance. I'm not tolerating your foolishness, and neither should she. But every woman that lays down with him, let me tell you something. Y'all are making it harder for those of us out here with some sense. Speaking of people with some sense, let's cut over here to Kandi. Kandi went on Watch What Happens Live. And don't worry, Deep Dive is coming on an update on her divorce court matter. So in this clip, what she talks about is she knew back in July that her marriage was over. Something happened. We're going to talk about it. Something happened. And here we go.
You and Todd been considering a separation before you decided it was the right decision?
Oh no, it happened like in July. In July was when I was like, oh yeah, nah, I can't do this no more.
Was there a specific moment or thing that
it was
happened?
a specific situation that happened. I'm not talking about on Watch What Happens.
Okay, all right. Okay. How long had you?
So we know this as well from the divorce paperwork. The divorce paperwork talks basically about how July was when the marriage had its breakdown. Now, what's going on now is the dispute and the fight is Kandi wants him to pay child support. He wants her to pay child support. And I'm going to pull the most recent documents and do a separate deep dive. But the challenge that Kandi is going to face legally is that she is out of state working on business. I need you guys to take off your we hate Todd hat or your I love Kandi hat, whichever. And let's just look at the facts, right? The facts are this. Under the law, the parent that's in the state where the kids are in school is more than likely going to get custody and get child support. That's just the reality of it. So Kandi's in New York working on Broadway. Let's change the genders. If Kandi were a man, okay? That's a good point, baby doll. And thank you for being a member. If Kandi were a man and was playing for the NFL, had to go out of state from his home state to go and do his games for the next 3 months, y'all really think there'd be a dispute as to who gets primary custody? No. See, and with Kandi, if Kandi gets this primary custody, she's effectively planning to use nannies to execute on her behalf, right? She's also going to fly back and forth, fly the kids to her, etc. So it's not like they don't see her for an entire month. But Kandi's Broadway show is slated to go through March. Now, Baby Doll says, but Todd goes out of state for business too. You going out of state here and there for business isn't the same as you performing on Broadway every day except for 1 or 2 days a week. Okay, we can kind of agree on that. Also, the way in which he may very well not be going anywhere on business until after Kandi's show. We don't know. We don't know that. But I just want to let you know the current argument is Kandi wants him to pay child support. He wants her to pay child support or to continue paying the things that she was previously paying. Part of the challenge is this. If during the marriage, Kandi was paying for the nanny, paying for private school, paying for all of this, what the court tends to do is they want to maintain the status quo, meaning they're going to keep things as they have already been. Thank you, In the Flow, Brooklyn, for joining. They're going to, yes, that's right. S.R. Whitfield said Kandi has paid for nannies their whole marriage. Unfortunately, that argument bades in favor of her continuing to pay. It means that there's not, this is not putting a new burden on her. I know you're not going to want to hear it. I'm telling you the law, baby. I'm telling you the law. Okay. But she also feels like Todd should handle some of the household expenses. He should not be able to live in the house, etc., and not have to be responsible for a portion of the mortgage or the household bills, etc. That also is going to go back to how was it handled during the marriage. Now, Todd's money had to be used for something. And maybe, for example, he paid utilities or whatever it is. That should be maintained in the status quo as well. But effectively, what Todd is asking for is that Kandi be required to continue paying for what she's been paying for during the marriage. So I understand that the blogs and stuff have been saying, well, he's asking her for child support. Effectively, yes, legally he is. It's called temporary orders of support. But what he's asking for is to now define what she's already been doing during the marriage as support. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to review the papers again. And like I said, we'll do a separate deep dive, but it doesn't appear that he's necessarily asking for cash. He's asking for her to continue paying the kids' private school, nannies, after school curriculum, that kind of stuff. She also, if it is found that she has to continue paying those, she's also going to get a credit for any and all flights that she pays for the kids or for herself to go and visit the kids. She gets credit for that too. Thanks, S.R. Whitfield. It says, Todd spent money at strip clubs from his words when Apollo was married to Phaedra. I bet. It says, why can't they go 50-50? Excellent question, No Jor here. Because they didn't during the marriage. See, when you know you are mentally planning for divorce, that's why call me for a consult. I don't care what state you're in. Call me for a divorce consultation. Those are my favorite ones. As part of that, I do a background check into your spouse, into their debts, into whatever I can publicly find. But what you want to start doing prior to filing for divorce is ensuring, if you are the female breadwinner, you want to make that person start going 50-50 with you. You want to say, hey, can you split daycare with me? Or can you do the private school and I do extracurriculars? Because the judge is going to look back on how things were paid for before. He's not going to change it up substantially. So the issue is they weren't going 50-50 before. So why you need it now? Why do you need it now is going to be the question. What likely will happen, what can also happen is that each side can be responsible for, like, if they live separately, each side can be responsible for the children's bills when they are with them. But here, he's still living in their marital home and cannot be put out. When you're married and you're filing for divorce, the only way you can get put out of your marital home is for DV. That's how come, if you remember Croy and what's tardy to the party, Kim Zolciak. Her and her husband kept calling the police on each other every Thursday. Okay. The police were always there. They were trying to get the other person put out the house because the house was in foreclosure and couldn't neither one of them afford their own apartment. And they were sick of each other and hated living under the same roof. Great question. What about the prenup? Is it true? He is saying he signed under duress. So I did a prior video about that. And with the prenup, what Todd is saying is, basically, he is reserving the right to contest it, but saying, I'm not contesting it right now, because a prenup has a provision that says, as most prenups do, has a provision that says, if you contest it, then basically you may not get nothing. Okay. Excuse me. So what he is saying, though, is that his lawyer has filed and says they are reserving the right to contest the prenup if, once the prenup is applied, that split doesn't seem fair. Let me give you an example. So, for example, a prenup, it may say he gets a portion of the equity of the primary house. If they then go calculate how much that equity is that he is entitled to, if he feels like that's not a fair number, then he may come and contest the prenup. But basically what they're saying is, go ahead, we're going to work with the other side to determine applying the prenup as each side believes it should be applied. How much am I getting? If I feel like it's a fair number, we're good to go. We're moving on. If I don't feel like it's a fair number, then I'm going to go and contest. I hope that helps. It says, oh yeah, baby doll, thank you. Let's not forget that the whole prenup thing was filmed on Bravo. It absolutely was filmed on Bravo, including where she said, well, if you're not going to sign, we're not getting married. And then where he took some time, thought about it, and then came back and said he was going to sign, and did it without his lawyer being present. Now, I don't know if his current divorce lawyer is the same one that he had when he was negotiating the prenup, but as an attorney, I can tell you his lawyer put in the documents that he is reserving the right to contest, because that lawyer is trying to cover their butt by allowing their client, to sign the prenup, right, without it being the final version, allegedly, that both sides agreed to. But here's the problem that Todd is going to have. Todd. The problem you're going to have, Buki, is that, okay, if you weren't comfortable with it when you signed it on the day before your wedding, how come you didn't do a postnup correcting whatever you felt uncomfortable for? The court does not like it when you wait 10 years of a marriage and say, oh, all of a sudden, I don't like it. I don't like it. Especially when you are people of means who have lawyers. Baby, if I'm Kandi's lawyers, I'm like, Your Honor, we have done so many business deals, Todd and I, where he's got lawyers on speed dial. He knows how to call a lawyer if he wants to. And this man ain't wanted to call a lawyer because his understanding of the prenup was either we would never break up, or he had an understanding that he would get most. So you can get, Mark is asking a postnup. They don't have a postnup, but a postnup is simply after you get married, it can be an additional agreement that either changes the terms of your prenup, or it can add additional terms, or if you obtain additional assets, it can say, this is how we're going to split those other assets. Or if you start new businesses, these new businesses are mine and I don't have to split it. I did a video on Desmond and Christy Scott. They have a postnup. Also, any day now, we should see their divorce the judge sign their divorce paperwork. Probably going to be next week, actually. Mark my words on that. It says he does have the same attorney. Thank you, SR. Yeah, if Todd has the same attorney that was negotiating the prenup, that attorney is now trying to cover their butt if the interpretation of the prenup is one that the client later feels is unfair. Otherwise, if they don't reserve that right and fight it, they will expose themselves to a potential malpractice case. Okay. So there we go with that. All right, real quickly, we're going to go over. All right, so that's it about Kandi. Next up on the docket. Oh, he gets on my nerves. I just wanted to follow up talking about, stupid Corey Holcom. So remember, Corey Holcom is the comedian who socked this other comedian, a Black woman, in her face. This was December of 2024. Now, I'll be reading the comments, y'all. Also, let me know which topics you want me to cover tomorrow when I'm live here at 11 a.m. Central as well. But a great question was asked, which is, can charges still be brought? So the answer is, it depends on the statute of limitations, but I think the answer is going to be yes. So this would likely be considered misdemeanor assault. And in California, which is where I believe this is where this happened, either California or Nevada, there is a 2-year misdemeanor, 2 or 3 year misdemeanor statute of limitations. That means it's not too late. And so if that is what Christina wants to pursue, Christina is the victim, what can happen is she could ask everybody to go ahead and call the district attorney's office and say she wants to press charges. See, when it happened, she went to the police station, filed a police report, did all of that, and nothing happened. Maybe we need to make some phone calls. What do y'all think? Maybe we need to make some phone calls to the Los Angeles County District Attorney, because this happened outside of the Hollywood Improv, if I'm correct, and to assist her with getting justice. It did happen in California. Thank you. To assist her with getting justice. In addition, she is pursuing a civil case. So what happens a lot of times is, with a civil case, oftentimes people go for the civil because the police aren't pursuing it criminally. It's up to the DA. But now that we have this footage, and I don't know that the DA had that footage. If you don't hear nothing else today, I want to tell you, the district attorney's office, police officers, government employees, period, are often underpaid and overworked. And so a lot of times I tell my clients, especially on the civil side, you got to do their jobs for them. You need to give them this footage. So if this footage was not given to them, a lot of victims assume that the police are going to go get it. They are lazy. They are lazy. They got bigger fish to fry. They've got serial killers. They've got pedos. They've got all kind of other more important. That's not important. This Black woman getting punched in the face by this Black man, that ain't important to them. It's not. And that's unfortunate. So let's ask Christina. If y'all know Christina, send her this video, send her this clip. And I will happily support her if she wants to encourage people to call the DA's office to pick up those charges. Also, I don't care that it's just a misdemeanor, even if it is, because you know what happens with a misdemeanor? With a misdemeanor, the bond conditions could likely make it more difficult for Corey to just get up and do a show in New York or Nevada or out of state. He's going to have to go and he's going to have to talk to the bond officer and talking that it's like pre-probation that controls your rights and what you can do while you are awaiting trial. All of that. All of it. It says, rumor has it the footage wasn't available until after the court proceeding. So they're currently in the midst of civil proceedings, but there are no criminal. And that's the point. That is the problem. It is not. So in summary, no, it's not too late for criminal charges. There appears to be at least a 2-year statute of limitations. So she's got until December of this year if she wants charges pressed. And if I were her civil attorney pursuing the civil matter, I would also push for criminal, because when you do that, what happens is if a court of law, if he either enters a plea or if a jury convicts him of this assault, all you got to do is take that ruling to a civil judge, and the civil judge just gets to determine how much money is it worth. It literally takes off the table the issue of having to prove guilt. That's because the standard in criminal law is beyond a reasonable doubt, and that is much higher than civil law, which is just 51% chance he did it. So there we go. Yeah, Corey Holcom is down bad. He has earned every bit of his malfortune. a misfortune. That's what he gets. And last but not least, we're going to talk former University of Michigan head coach Sherrone Moore. Okay, we're going to talk about him. Oops, sorry. Uh-oh. All right, here we go. All right, now as we start this fool, Sherrone Moore, let me make sure it's on the screen. Oops, here, let me adjust this so you can see it. There we go. There we go. So it says, head coach Sherrone Moore scores a legal win. The judge cites a glaring concern with his arrest. Oh, baby. And again, I'm going to do a separate dive into this. Yes, absolutely. I'm going to do a separate dive into this. Let me scroll it down. We got a super chat. Hold on. Let me make sure I answer it before we get into this. Why is Cardi's divorce not final after more than a year? You know what? I really appreciate your super chat. I'm going to answer this before we hop into Sherrone Moore. So the question is, why is Cardi's divorce not final after more than a year? Just because he asks doesn't mean he gets it. Isn't there a time frame? Yes. Hold on. We're going to get into this. I want to make sure that we cover this. There you go. I'm going to share this with you. This is Cardi B on her not peaceful divorce from Offset. So here we go.
On her divorce proceedings with estranged husband Offset. During an appearance on The Breakfast Club September 19th, the rapper shares how things are going with her ex since she filed for divorce more than a year ago.
It's not peaceful at all. I can't even talk about it because it's like court thing, but it's like it is not peaceful at all. It is not peaceful. I don't even want to like make it into a. It's not peaceful. Just know.
In addition to their split not being as civil as she had hoped, Cardi expresses frustration with Offset taking digs at her in his music. In his new song, Move On, the Migos alum raps that the 32-year-old allegedly never cooked for him, to which Cardi had this to say.
Well, now you got all these bitches that cook for you. Why are you still bothering me?
However,
she told him, I don't cook, I don't clean. Tell me how I got this ring. She ain't never lied about that.
Grammy winner, who's currently expecting her first child with new boyfriend Stefon Diggs, reveals she still hopes to tie the knot again someday.
After everything, do you think love and marriage is still worth it?
I think it's worth it.
Well, you get married again?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I will get married again.
You'll get married a lot.
But not as quick as I got married the last time.
Right. So the main reason that Cardi B's divorce is taking so long, y'all, is because she married an idiot. So that'll do it. That will do it. But it's also because she doesn't want to pay him money. So there is a time frame. So it's a great question. Angie B has said, why is Cardi B's divorce not final after more than a year? Just because he asked doesn't mean he gets it. Is there a time frame? So what is this? So what happens is if you guys don't come to an agreement, right? Husband and wife don't come to an agreement, then you got to go to trial. So what's waiting on is the trial. Trial requires discovery. It requires financial disclosures that have to be exchanged. And what's going to happen is with discovery, people hide documents. Now, it has been reported that on his side, he doesn't want to give her a divorce unless she pays his tax bill, which is $1 million, over $1 million of unpaid taxes. And he also wants one of their homes. They did not have a prenup. Here's Cardi B, you're my friend in my head, okay? Okay. Your legal bestie talking here. What I will never understand is Cardi B had these excellent lawyers, right? That protected her and represented her when she was going through her lawsuit with Tasha K. I don't understand why somebody in that firm that was already representing her didn't say, Cardi, hey, this man keeps cheating on you. Remember, there was a time when they broke up. And he even interrupted her performance on stage with all these flowers to apologize. And then she ultimately took him back. If that's my client, baby, you can't take that man back without a post-nup. A post-nup would have said, if it would have said, if we divorce, this is what you get, this is what I get. She knew he didn't like paying his bills. She knew he was frivolous with his money. That would have been where she had a great opportunity to protect herself. Now, you can also add in a prenup if you cheat, a post-nup, correction. Post-nup is after you've been married. You can add provision that say, if you cheat, you don't get nothing but your hand to jack yourself off, fool. You can say that. For me, in my prenup, what I want, let me give you an example. I want to put something in there that says, if you cheat, there is a penalty provision where you are going to have to give me an additional 50,000. That's the current number I have in my mind. 50,000 US dollars that I can use at my leisure for what I want, including but not limited to plastic surgery, a BBL, a mommy makeover. And I'm going to include these words: vaginal reconstructive surgery. Why do I want that? Because then when I leave you and I start dating our son's basketball coach, the AAU coach, and you come and you answer the door and the basketball AAU coach is answering with no shirt on, you know that you paid for that. You paid for this new coochie that I got him, where I just gripped him up with it, okay? And I gripped him up. And that's how I got my new man. While you were out there cheating, I got a new vagina. And with that new vagina, I'm walking around town using just gripper, just a super gripper. And I'm just gripping up everything that I was gripping. Not you, but yeah. So yeah, 50. Why not? Why not 50? Extra 50. You know, especially in that, just get you a good number. You want to put in there vaginal reconstruct. You want to put his mind, okay? You want every time he sees you with some young tender, you want him to wonder, oh my God, did I pay for that? Did I pay for her new coochie? You'll never know. You'll never know. All you'll see is evidence, okay? But you'll never know. It said Cardi needs to get that BBL removed. Oh gosh, it says Rick Fox was fine too. Okay, so in the end, the reason the divorce is taking so long is in part they have not come to the agreement as far as what debts Cardi is going to be responsible, which one he's going to be responsible for. He has paid off a portion of his IRS debt. I think he's paid $750K towards that debt. There was a release filed in the records, but so it's not all of it, but it's a portion of it. He would also be entitled to half of the equity and any of the properties that were acquired during the marriage. And you have to remember, y'all, she married him as she was pregnant with Culture. That was back when she had her very first album. So pretty much all the properties she's acquired, all the assets she's acquired were acquired during the marriage. Now, he's also responsible for, though, they have to split 50% of the debts. And it can be done in different ways. If it's been found, though, that he did what's called wasting of the family assets by tricking off on hoes and gambling money. He's a big gambler, gambling money away, not paying his taxes. She can literally get an offset, no pun intended, an offset against equity that she was otherwise supposed to give him. And last but not least, thank you so much, Angie B, for that super chat. One of the reasons it's likely taking so long is because old girl is married. Now in Texas, it's pregnant, correction, it's pregnant. In Texas, you cannot get a divorce while pregnant. Texas law requires that you have to have the baby before the judge can sign the divorce order. That is so that if either side wants to contest custody or paternity, that they can do that. And so that it can all be wrapped up in the divorce decree. So the divorce will say, this is who the daddy is. This is what you owe for child support. This is a visitation, all of that. That's Texas. Now in Georgia, you can still get a divorce while pregnant, but judges often will, if someone wants to contest paternity, they would want to wait until the baby's born. Now her baby has now been born, clearly, right? But that likely slowed down a portion of the process, especially if Offset wanted to drag his feet and just prolong it by saying, well, I think I might be the dad. As the husband, if he does that, it could force a paternity test, especially if Stefan says, no, I'm the dad. There was also a rumor that went on. So Selena Powell, the cum bucket, I'm not even gonna put her face up there because she gives me the heebie-jeebies. But she is a industry pass around. You can Google. She did an interview where she stated that she was messing with Offset and spent the night with him. Baby, that alone, if I was Cardi B, would make me never ever take that man back. You can't even entertain this man. Anybody who sleeps with her is disgusting and will give you AIDS. As far not even HIV, they're gonna skip over the IV and they're just gonna give you full blown AIDS. Okay, as far as I'm concerned. But Selena Powell had video footage of her talking with Offset, where and she tells the story where Offset was laughing basically at Stefan Diggs because Stefan allegedly was upset when Cardi B was giving birth. He was at the hospital and wanted to sign the birth certificate, but the nurses would not let him because Cardi B is married. Let me tell you on that. I checked with some nurses that are delivery nurses, and what they said is that's probably correct. That if you have a husband, they generally will not let the husband sign the birth certificate. If you have a husband and a boyfriend, they likely won't let anybody sign that birth certificate. Even if the husband says, give it to me, I want to sign it. Instead, what Stefan could sign is basically called an affidavit of paternity, which is a document where he's saying, I'm taking responsibility. This is my baby, whether he has a paternity test or not. Now, if he signs that, then he becomes on the hook for that. And in many states, if you sign that first and later found out that the baby is not yours, it doesn't matter. In many states, you can still be on the hook for child support for that baby that's not even yours. Oh, and also, generally, hospitals do not give paternity tests right after birth and delivery. They don't like being involved in that mess. You can bring your own in your purse, in your pocketbook. Oh, yeah, and I'll drop a link below. You can absolutely do that. You can do a little swipe in the mama's mouth. But generally, hospitals will not do paternity tests right after delivery. They don't like being involved in that mess, but you can do that mail out type. I'm going to do a different video on that one because did y'all know? Let me know if you knew this in the chat. They have all these new paternity test options that I need y'all to know about because for me, like if my brother came home and somebody was like, this is my baby daddy, I'd be like, girl, let me see. And I would want to confirm. And nowadays, a lot of men feel uncomfortable asking for a paternity test because number one, they don't want to upset the mother while she is going through not PTSD, postpartum, etc. And two, they don't want to later be accused of, quote, denying their child. Let me say this, and Marcus, I see you still in the chat. Asking for a paternity test isn't denying your child. It's confirming that the child that you are about to raise is in fact yours. It is no different than if you were buying a car, you pick your car out the lot, they give you all the paperwork to sign, and you say, well, hold on, let me take a look at the title. I want to confirm that the VIN number on the title is the same on all this paperwork where I'm promising to be financially responsible for this car for the next umpteen years. But y'all, legally, I tell guys all the time, I'll say this in final, I tell men all the time, if you are not sure, go ahead, go down to Walgreens, go to Amazon, get a test, run it confidentially. If it says that the child isn't yours, then you can go to court and ask for a formal test because those tests don't count in court. You do have to do the court honored test, but you can do it that way. And then if it says, yes, you are the father, then you can shut the fuck up and don't piss the mama off while she's trying to recuperate. And it doesn't have to change the dynamic of your relationship. And no, it is not illegal to swipe your own baby. You're the other parent. It's not illegal to do that. But now, y'all, they have tests. Hold on. Let me show y'all. Let me show y'all. This is my favorite. Hold on. I got all these. Hold on. Let me show y'all this. This made my whole day. Hold on. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Here we go. Where's my little list? I have to show you this, y'all. Where is my list? Oh, let me in. Hold on. Y'all got to see this. Trust me. I'm about to put it on the screen. Hold on. This is what I'm gonna start giving men for their birthday. This is what I'm gonna start giving men for their birthday. Hold on. All right, here we go. Here is my list. Here we go. Boom. Don't ask me why this looks like this. All right, here we go. So this is my look. I'm gonna put a link to my Amazon store in here, y'all. Did y'all know they have all these different types of paternity tests? But did y'all know there is a cousin test? Yes, you can do a test now to confirm that you are in fact cousins with somebody else. That's great. But what I really liked was, obviously there's a father and child paternity test on Amazon. It's $63. But y'all, did you see this? There is a grandparent test. So if Granny is like, I don't think this baby is my son's, literally buy your mama one of these. It's $94. You can use the link. I'm going to put it in the description below. And grandparents can run a test to see that. They also have auntie tests. There is an auntie uncle test. I don't know why it's not on this one. I had that one saved too. There is an auntie uncle paternity test. You know, if somebody says your brother is there we go. Paternity. There we go. If somebody says your brother is the daddy and you don't believe it, you can test without your brother even knowing, y'all. It's more expensive for that when it's $94. Who cares? Here we go. Did y'all know that? And I want to know in the chat, has anyone actually done an auntie paternity test? I think everybody, I gave somebody one of these for Valentine's Day. Somebody said I'm a sugar mama. Attorney Simone, could I do a review of community property rights for a wife in the state of Michigan? If the wife doesn't work, does she have the right to any of her husband's income from social media? Yeah, you would have a right to any income from any source. Social media is not excluded. Sure can. Not you comparing children to card numbers. I am to VIN check. You got to make sure you got the right one. Don't nobody want you walking out with the wrong child. So the case affirmed the state's ability to first enforce paternity rights. Okay, got it. All right. And then last but not least, y'all. Okay, so that's just the foolishness here. Last but not least, we are going. So yeah, if you got somebody who you don't know if it's their baby, just go to my Amazon shop. Okay, we're going to get y'all right. Because ain't no need in bringing babies to buying Christmas gifts for babies that ain't your niece or ain't your nephew. Y'all know, in my family, we had this one kid. I was like, that kid don't look nothing like the rest of us. Sure enough, they ended up not being ours. Okay. Somebody said I'd be totally out of that. This is too much drama for me. Yes. But here we go. Mackenzie has stated, could I do a review of community property rights for a wife in Michigan? I'm going to start doing a call-in show. I have to pick which day I want to start doing that. I think maybe Mondays, messy Mondays, or we'll figure it out. But we're going to do a call-in. So that's the type of thing I want people to call in and ask about. And I'll give them my opinion on that. But last but not least, we've got, Sherrone Moore. Here we go. The coach of Michigan. Bless his little heart. Here he is. All right, so the former head coach from Michigan, he scores a big legal win. The judge cites a glaring concern with his arrest. Now, first of all, let me tell you this. His judge, he got the best possible judge that he could in Michigan. So the judge that he has is this old black man, and there's often these little viral clips about this older black man. He looked like he could be any of our daddy, okay? That judge is smart. He takes his time with his cases. He's not worried about popularity or trying to go viral. He's focused on the law and what is fair and what is reasonable. This is the same judge, I'll find the clip, where the judge was having a Zoom hearing, and there was a guy who was on the Zoom, but he was there for a suspended license, and he's driving a car and on the Zoom. And the judge is like, hold on, wait a minute. Is your charge driving with a suspended license? He was like, oh, yeah, judge, it is. And they're like, and you're driving? And he was like, and the judge was like, I think the judge increased his bond and said that his bond was being revoked and said he had to report within 48 hours. That's that judge. This judge does not play. And so the former head coach of Michigan, Sherrone Moore, let's see, here we go. Here we are. He had this amazing contract where it was approximately $6 million a year that he was getting paid to coach Michigan. and it was a multi-year contract, and he screwed it all up over some coochie. All of that is what ruined his entire basically career. But what's going on now is the young lady, which was his assistant that he was accused of having an affair with. So allegedly the affair with his assistant, who is a 20-something young lady, was revealed because they had sex, and then he ordered a plan B, and the Uber that delivered, he had an Uber Eats person deliver it. And that person allegedly contacted the school and informed the school of this relationship. And the school then fired him. Allegedly. That's allegedly how it started. The update, though, is that when the school fired him, he then, according to the alleged victim, the young lady who was his assistant, he began, quote, stalking her. So he was ultimately arrested for stalking, which the school was able to use as the grounds to fire him. Now, in this stalking charge, it's considered aggravated stalking. They claim that he then went to her house after he was fired, and he had a weapon. He said he was going to unalive himself, and that his blood would be on her hands. Now, the defense version is that he never threatened her with the weapon, that the weapon was solely to hurt himself because his life was now in the doo-doo, poo-poo, caca pit for his conduct. But he hired the best of the best lawyer. And this is the argument I'm about to break down for you, that it appears may very likely get the entire all those criminal charges dismissed. Either get them dismissed or get the evidence that was obtained after his arrest, get that evidence suppressed. So what it was is this. So in order to get an arrest warrant, so there was an arrest warrant that was issued for his arrest. To do that, a police officer has to complete a signed sworn affidavit that shows probable cause for aggravated stalking. That was the charge. Well, in order to do that, you have to show that this person isn't merely communicating for a valid reason, that the communication has to rise to the level of stalking. Well, in this instance, the police officer who completed the affidavit never informed the judge that the girl was his employee. The defense argued that it is therefore an unlawful arrest warrant because it intentionally omits material facts that would have shown that there's no probable cause. Specifically, the arrest warrant said that in one day he called her 14 times. He does not deny that he called her 14 times. But the argument the defense has is that because we don't know how many of those times were work related and he called on a work day, then those could be valid contacts that do not give rise to stalking. Excellent argument. The judge actually was open to that argument. And here's what the judge said as well. The judge has said, so let me go down. He granted a request for a hearing. So what the defense was asking for is a hearing to then delve further into whether this was an intentional or accidental omission by the police officer. So it's Judge Cedric Simpson granted a request for a hearing about the circumstances surrounding Moore's arrest, which came December 2025, just hours after he was fired from his job. Moore, 40, was charged with felony, quote, home invasion, stalking, and illegal entry after allegedly breaking into the apartment of the staff member, threatening to harm her and to take his own life. And on Tuesday, the judge said it was, quote, a glaring omission that Moore's previous relationship with the woman was not disclosed by a police detective when a magistrate authorized a warrant for arrest. By a previous relationship, they mean employer-employee relationship. It says the defendant's due process rights may have been violated. This was not solely a personal relationship. The magistrate should have been able to look at the fact that there was also an employer-employee relationship. Marcus said, nobody calls anybody 14 times to discuss work. Well, here's some of the arguments that were made. The judge has now set a hearing for March 2nd to hear from the police and other witnesses involved in the case. The attorney for the coach says the judge got it right in this motion and in due process matters. The attorney told reporters outside the court Tuesday, with the coach standing by her side. She said, Coach Moore maintains his innocence and the truth will come out. Michaels initially sought to have the charges against Moore dropped. The lawyer wanted the charges completely dropped during the probable cause conference of January 22nd. And at the time, Michaels claimed that Moore's arrest was, quote, based on false and misleading statements presented as facts. We're confident the truth will come out in court under oath where it belongs. Sherrone was joined by his wife, Kelly Moore. Kelly said, where them dollars at? Where them dollars at? It's always great to have your spouse accompany you because it looks like they've forgiven you. And then it makes the jury more likely to want to forgive you. Like, hey, if the wife don't care, hell, why should we? But also a lot of times what happens is the wife sticks by because the wife sticks by till it's over because this is going to impact her money as well. Now, the couple have 3 children, 3 daughters. The youngest born in 2019. 2019, 2022, and 2022 and 2025. Oh, Lord, he just had a newborn baby. So he's over cheating on his wife who just had a baby. Now, Kelly called 911. It says shortly after her husband was fired from the University of Michigan, telling dispatchers she was concerned for his well-being. I'm worried my husband's going to hurt himself. She said, can you track his phone? When Kelly was asked why she was concerned, she said, he is trying to unalive himself. He just called me and said he got fired from his job. He's in crisis. I told him I love him and that I need him to come home. But I don't know where he is. Sherrone was taken into custody shortly after that call was made, having been tracked to a local church parking lot. After pleading not guilty, he was released on a $25,000 bond, ordered to wear a GPS. Also, part of the charges is they're trying to say this wasn't stalking, this wasn't burglary, this was a mental health crisis that was mishandled. So someone said, not surprised. Yeah, I think a lot of people, we don't care because we feel like, well, that's what happens when you deal with these types of women and you should have known better. You had way too much at risk and on the line with the type of contract and the type of salary you had I always say God does not reward the stupid. He doesn't. Not my God. My God is an awesome God. He reigns. Okay. And this gentleman, he earned a total of $6.11 million for the season, which included a base of $510,000 and $5.1 million in additional compensation. He had a 5-year contract that was signed in 2024, including yearly raises and a potential $13.9 million buyout clause, meaning if they wanted to buy out his contract or get a new coach in the midst of that 5-year frame. It also says he had the potential for an extra $3.5 million in incentives, a retention bonus of $500,000. And in this instance, the reports indicate that he was fired, quote, for cause, meaning that the school does not have to pay the remaining $12.3 million or the full buyout. So what they're trying to set up here is for him to be able to, for him to get these criminal charges dismissed and then be able to sue the school to get the rest of his contract money. So either sue and get the rest of his contract money and reinstatement of the job and back pay. Now, I would think at this point, he needs to just leave town. He needs to just go on because he didn't embarrass. It's too much of a distraction. He needed to get the hell out of there. But he could also, receive that buyout money, which is basically $13 million. Also, he really needs to get this. If he's able to get these criminal charges dismissed, that it would enable a setup for other schools to hire him. Now, he might do the playbook that a lot of the disgraced coaches do, which is they then go to an HBCU, coach there, try and redeem themselves, and then go to a NCAA type of school. I am not putting down HBCUs. What I'm saying is they use us. They use brown people when they want to get back into coaching at the highest possible level. But yes, he is basically trying to set this up so that he can get all of his money. He can get back to coaching. The other thing they're trying to establish is that this was a setup from the woman that that she effectively was a gold digger who staged this. And a component of what was discussed in the criminal trial was that she called her lawyer. She didn't call the police. She called her lawyer. The lawyer then called the police, and the lawyer did reporting to the investigators to try and get this criminally prosecuted. And earlier in this live, I explained, I'm a civil attorney. You can call me anywhere in the nation if you are injured in any capacity. Free consultation, you call 855-4-Simone. I'd be happy to help you. But as a civil lawyer, I told you, one of the main things up our sleeves is if there are criminal components, if we can get you guys criminally charged and found guilty, or you take a plea, that stacks up the money right there. Then all we have to do is take those court orders, take that jury verdict to a civil judge and say, Judge, we want you to award us $10 million for pain and suffering, emotional distress, whatever. And the judge's sole question is how much money would be reasonable here. They do not have to determine guilt, innocence, or liability once a criminal court has already determined it, because that criminal court has determined it based on beyond a reasonable doubt. And that is a higher standard than civil courts, who only have to do it based on preponderance of evidence, which literally means, is it 51% likely or not that he did the shit he's accused of doing? Somebody said he should hire me. He should. You can hire me confidentially. No one will need to know. No one's got to know. It says, but wasn't Sherrone, hold on. This comment says, but wasn't Sherrone already fired when he went to her house? So the answer is, I thought so. I thought he went to her house to help him, to ask her to help get the job back, to say, my blood's on your hands, drop these charges, help me. My understanding is that he was, in which case I agree. This strategy isn't going to work, because if the issue was moral turpitude, but what you can also point to is, what was the moral turpitude act that got him fired? If it was just an affair with a colleague, if he's able to point to other coworkers that have worked at that school, coaches or not coaches, that have had affairs and didn't get fired, then that's also not a valid basis. But I believe the main basis the school is going to go through is a moral turpitude clause, is having the affair with someone who works under you. Yeah, Angie B, I agree. He got fired and then went to her house. So in addition, but however, the criminal charges, getting those dismissed will absolutely allow him and set him up for a better chance of getting hired by some other university. Somebody said turpitude. Yeah, moral turpitude, a crime of moral turpitude, like any act of moral turpitude would be, it's something that basically would be frowned upon and creates, here, I'll Google it specifically. Moral turpitude is basically when you've done something that's immoral, or like theft is usually moral turpitude, beating someone, hurting someone, because he's also charged with burglary. So, oh yeah, but we just talked about how that was after. Hold on, moral turpitude, just to explain it more concisely. As an attorney, it's one of those things you say it all the time. It refers to conduct that is inherently base, vile, or depraved. I hate how they use these words, y'all, in the law. We don't say base. So it's vile or depraved and contrary to accepted standards of morality and justice. Listen, coaches, they all cheat on their wives. So I don't see how cheating could be the basis of that, even if he had her take a plan B. Now, I do believe she's trying to argue he forced her to take a plan B. Baby, can't nobody force you to take a plan B unless they hold your mouth open. You took that plan B because you wanted to take that plan B. You didn't want that black baby. Maybe you didn't want that married man's baby. But to say, I hate when people say, he forced me to take a plan B. Girl, you could act just like any of the, like people in jail that don't want to take their medication. You could have done just like that. Plus, that plan B today, baby, I don't blame you not want to take it. I took one of them things recently, and oh my God, I think I got a bad batch. I never had stomach cramps like that. That plan B today, oh no, she should get some pain and suffering just for having to take that plan B, okay? But that's something she would have needed to go negotiate before she took it. Anyway, That's enough foolishness from me today. See y'all tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central for more Girl Is That Legal. As well, you'll see me. I'm going to be on Don Lemon again today to talk more Jeffrey Epstein. Y'all take care.
Is that legal? Is that legal? Is that legal?